The secret that shattered my family. It all started with a family reunion that seemed like any other. My parents, my two older sisters, and I had gathered at my childhood home for a weekend of catching up. The house smelled like my mom's cooking, warm and comforting. The familiar faces, the laughter, the games, we all thought it was just going to be another good time. But that day, everything changed. I was 28 years old and hadn't been home in over a year. Life had kept me busy, with work and my own personal struggles. As I entered the living room, I noticed my mom seemed quieter than usual, her smile a little too forced. My dad was nowhere to be found. Then, just before dinner, my mom pulled me aside. "Your father has something to tell you," she said, her voice trembling. She couldn't even look me in the eye. I didn't know what to think. My dad had always been the strong, dependable figure in our family. Nothing ever rattled him. So, when he walked into the room with his usual calm demeanor, something felt off. He had the kind of look on his face that I'd never seen before, like he had already lost the battle within himself. "Sit down, son," he said. I felt a knot form in my stomach. This wasn't how things usually went. As he began speaking, I could feel my heart pounding. He admitted to something that was so shocking, so unimaginable, that it almost didn't register in my mind. He confessed to having had an affair, a 2-year-long affair with a woman he'd met through work. It was something he had kept hidden, and the guilt had eaten away at him for years. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was that my father had gotten this woman pregnant. And now, at 45, he was going to be a father again, to a child I didn't know existed. I was in complete shock. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. I felt like the walls were closing in on me. My whole world was crumbling before my eyes. My dad, the man who had raised me, who had always been my rock, had torn our family apart. And all of a sudden, I wasn't sure if I even knew who he was anymore. My mom was sitting across from me, tears streaming down her face. She hadn't known about the affair until recently, when my dad finally confessed. She was devastated, but what tore me up even more was seeing the pain in her eyes. The same pain I had seen countless times growing up when I knew she'd been through hard times. But this was a betrayal I couldn't even comprehend. My older sisters, who were in the next room, overheard the conversation and rushed in. They stood there, wide-eyed, as the truth came out. There were no words, just disbelief. We all had the same question. How could this happen? The hours that followed were a blur of angry outbursts, tears, and uncomfortable silences. My mom tried to hold herself together, but I could see the cracks forming. I could see how broken she was, how deep this wound cut. As for my dad, he was apologetic, regretful, and desperate to make things right, but I couldn't bring myself to believe him. I couldn't fathom how he could look me in the eye after all this. How could he expect me to forgive him? How could he think that after all the years he'd been our pillar of strength, this could ever be fixed? That night, I couldn't sleep. The weight of the betrayal, the lies, and the impending arrival of a half-sibling I didn't even want to acknowledge, it all felt like too much. The next morning, my mom told me she was considering leaving my dad. It wasn't just about the affair anymore, it was about the foundation of our family being cracked beyond repair. The trust, the love, the security we had all taken for granted, it was gone. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to yell at my dad, to tell him everything I felt, but I couldn't. I wanted to tell my mom that she deserved better, that we all deserved better. But nothing felt right. My emotions were a tangled mess of anger, hurt, and confusion. In the weeks that followed, things didn't improve. My mom moved into a small apartment, my dad stayed in the house, and my sisters, well, they didn't know how to deal with it either. We all fell into this uncomfortable silence, where family dinners were replaced with awkward texts and strained phone calls. But the real challenge came when the woman with my father's child reached out. She wanted to meet. She wanted to discuss the future, the child, and what role my father would play. She didn't want to break our family, but she was just as much a part of this mess as my dad. When I saw her for the first time, I couldn't believe she was real. She looked like a younger version of my mom, and when she spoke about the baby, I felt a strange mix of guilt and rage. I couldn't wrap my head around how my father could betray us like this, yet here was a woman who was now part of the family's legacy. We tried family therapy, but I'm not sure any of us were ready to fix what had been broken. The sessions felt like we were all just pretending to heal, pretending to be okay. The truth was, I didn't know how to look at my dad the same way again, and I didn't know if I could ever forgive him for what he'd done. Months passed. My dad tried to be there for the family. He made amends with my mom, but the distance between them was palpable. I kept my distance, trying to sort through my own feelings, but the truth was, I didn't know if I could ever get past it. The child was born, a little girl. I was introduced to her through a picture my dad sent. She looked just like him, and for the first time, I realized that my dad was no longer the man I had grown up with. He was someone else now, and I wasn't sure how to deal with that. I don't know what will happen next. I don't know if we'll ever be a family again, or if the distance between us will grow even wider. But one thing is for certain, this betrayal changed everything. It shattered the image of the family I thought I knew.